Hi, we are Grigori Gharveyn. This is part 4 of our current project, Our Future History, How the Earth Made Peace. Part 4, Metacognitive Programming. Our children are remembering whatever they want to know now because they are directly mentally interfaced with our collective human data archives. Everything any living person remembers is now a matter of publicly accessible memory, human memory. This is one of the primary functions enabled by metacognitive programming. Other functions include clairaudience, clairvoyance, bilocality, multiple presences, and more. Many higher cognitive functions are enabled with metacognitive programming. Almost overnight, in evolutionary terms, our ancestors used primitive metacognitive programming techniques to bootstrap the transformation of their own lives in ways they often only dimly anticipated. Metacognitive programming is enabled when a human mind becomes self-aware to an extent that includes substantial regions of their subconscious and unconscious minds, the habitats of their social conditioning agencies and agents. Most people who experience this cognitive development also experience more direct communication from their collective consciousness and superconsciousness. People become intuitively guided by their own higher functioning cognitive information processing resources and higher functioning reactive trigger response algorithms. People experiencing this sort of evolution of their cognitive resources and response systems become increasingly naturally inclined to peaceful behaviors and successful coexistence. Mutual benefit associations began to flourish in a spirit of cooperation, each sharing global and regional resources flexibly to deliver needed goods equitably to all. People learn to explore their spirituality, their relationships with themselves, with their heritage, with their people, with all others, and with their divines, without fear, without being intimidated, coerced, dominated, or exploited. Our ancestors took the initial steps that triggered this cascading cognitive and spiritual revolution. They took these steps hesitantly at first, but the process of learning peace was so successful that anyone could learn it, and eventually everyone did. One beauty of this transformation is that it was communicable through every cultural entity. This change thrived on our diversity. No one could be left out. Eventually, everyone wanted to opt in. Another beauty of this solution was that it made people stronger, more secure in their own eyes. This transformation made people happier and healthier in their lives. The change enabled all people to liberate themselves from all forms of coercive domination, regardless of form. Tyranny, poverty, and injustice at last came to an end. Security and liberty became possible for all people. The rule of fear had finally been dissolved. It seems hard to believe how sick our ancestors' worlds once were. Our ancestors sometimes sacrificed their lives to help build a lasting world peace. Now, we are our ancestors' shining hopes for an even better future than our ancestors might ever have dreamed of. Metacognitive programming is the key discovered by our ancestors. The key is enabled by the massive parallelism of each person's individual logic trees. Even heavily emotionally weighed triggers may respond favorably with metaprogramming. Metaprogramming is really mind programming. Mind programming accomplished with functional models of the target cognitive structures that are maladapted and vector array-driven result matrices that define how condition triggers may be used by the subject to stimulate their own mind out of counterproductive habituated routines into more creative solution routines functioning with awakened and emerging higher cognitive resources. Metaprogramming operates on a higher level of cognitive function than conditioned programming. Imagine you are lost in a maze and cannot see over the walls. This is how things are with conditioned programming. You can't see all the blind alleys. You can't see how your choices are limited and manipulated by mimetic cognitive agencies and agents all around you. You must explore and map your way by trial and error, perhaps relying on your memory alone. You may be able to create tools to help you chart your way, such as drawing media and implements to produce maps of your progress. Eventually, you may find your way. Had you started out with a map, even without a big red "You are here" pin, you would be able to find your way out of the maze with relatively little trial and error. Or, had you known a rule for solving mazes that will often work very reliably, you may have found your way out more quickly. However, you would not have been likely to find your way out nearly as fast as you might have with only a complete, reliable map. The map and the rule are both examples of higher functioning cognitive tools. From the point of view of a person without the skills or knowledge to use these tools, they seem like magic. They dramatically, radically extend their abilities to more quickly solve the puzzles of the maze. The rules for solving the maze have changed because your new tools enable higher abilities. This is how metaprogramming works. It changes the rules. Metaprogramming can change the rules because all rule systems are artificial constraints, even the rule systems that define all we know about the natural order or creation. All rule systems are artificial because they are constructs, a product of trial and error, self-improving, synergistic, symbiotic systems operating across many generations, even or perhaps especially our natural laws, such as how DNA works and proliferates and radiates itself successfully to evolve so many different species. Because all of creation may be reduced to rule set archetypes, combined with a list of significant differentials or standard deviations, all of creation is mappable and subject to higher functioning logical tools to solve all problems and understand everything. It then becomes just a matter of bandwidth, storage volume, and priorities. As evolution increases bandwidth and storage capacities, we can expand our scope and level of detail. As evolution increases bandwidth and storage capacities, we find another remarkable synergistic change occurs in our paradigms. Infinite bandwidth and storage evolve to provide complete universal information exchange at instantaneous rates. All time becomes now. Parallelism comes into play more strongly. All times reinforce each other, making each other stronger, quickening the paces of their respective evolutions. Huge evolutionary leaps begin happening more and more rapidly. We are only now starting out on this amazing journey, propelled into this extraordinary future by our ancestors' devotion to building world peace. Author's note: our own channeling of this information is an example of the potential of the newly emerging human data archives and metacognitive programming techniques. One anticipated consequence of this revolution in our race's collective paradigms and human cognitive abilities was the potentially eternal extension of our lives beyond our physical deaths. This extraordinary aspect of awakening our collective human consciousness and superconsciousness was eventually very well received. Our ancestors learned to continue their lives within our collective living memories as independent mimetic agents. Our ancestors became our guides and spiritual counselors after their deaths, as they had been in our lives with them. In a sense, the human race was finally beginning to achieve its potentials for immortality. We owe our bright and shining future to our brave ancestors, who took their first steps upon a frightening path that led to the world peace and unity we enjoy today. Namaste.